Hi guys, and welcome back to the world of 28mm. I'm Adam, and in this episode we're going to be making some simple fences for my test of honour board. So let's head down to the table and we'll crack on.
So first off on this project we're going to need to make the posts or the beams. And to do this we're just going to use some kebab skewers that you can buy from pretty much anywhere, like supermarkets or Poundlands and things like that. They're pretty easy to find. So we're going to use our straight edge rule to mark out a 6-inch length from the flat end of the kebab skewer, and then we're just going to trim it down to size. I've got my big what I call my chompers, which is what you see me using on screen, but you can, if you choose, to use something like a little mini hacksaw, or you can use a hobby blade. Just go through it with a few passes to get a nice clean cut. So it's important to have something to put down to keep your beams in place, as they are circular. You know, they're only going to end up rolling around and you'll end up with a wonky fence. So we're using pieces of blue tack and our grid on our cutting mat. Now each of the squares is a centimetre squared, so we're using the top line. We're putting the kebab skewer underneath the top line, and then we're putting the second kebab skewer above the bottom line on our grid. So you can see there, it's not that they're not on the actual lines, they're underneath and above. So to make our actual panels, we're going to use just some plain old coffee stirrers. Once again, you can pretty much pick these up anywhere. Off eBay, you can buy big bags for a couple of quid, or you could just pick a few up next time you're out having a coffee. Now, I want these to be kind of ramshackle fences, very sort of, farmland there for test of honour. So we want to make them very irregular, make it seem as if the person who made them had limited funds or limited resources, something along those lines. So we don't want all the panels to be uniform. So what I'm going to do, as you see me doing now, is I've measured off one fence panel. We will call our average sized fence panel, and I've put it up against the coffee stick, and I've just cut it to size with a pair of scissors. I'm going to repeat this step with about 3 coffee stirrers. After we have enough of our regular length planks, we're going to make some longer ones and some shorter ones. So I'm going to take the original length, the mid length, and I'm going to chop one a bit longer. So that's going to be our longer panels, our taller panels. And then I'm going to repeat that step. Once you've got the first long panel, then you can repeat the process. Put it against a coffee stirrer, cut it to size, and do that a couple of times. And then the third time, which you'll see me do in a minute, I'm using the same process again. I'm just cutting the first one a bit smaller. So you'll then have your mid-range, your mid-size, which we did first. We'll have our longer planks, which we did second, and then we'll have our shorter planks, which we'll do third. So now, to attach our planks, we're just going to use some plain old super glue. Once again, you've got different options if you want to use a latex based glue or you want to use just plain old PVA. I'm just using super glue in this case because it sets quickly and it's quite easy. So first of all, we just want to lay one plank down. I usually use the mid-level, mid-height to start off with, and then that just makes sure that everything's straight. And then once you've got that initial one down, just work in sort of inch, maybe half an inch lengths, and this just basically makes sure that, because you will have the odd time where one of them will stick to your finger and you'll end up pulling it off like that. And that just so you only work in short sections, just to ensure that the super glue doesn't dry if you have any mess ups like you saw there. So now we're just going to go across the whole fence, gluing our panels on until we're done. As we get towards the end of the fence, we need to take into consideration that when we get to the end, we don't want to leave any little sort of nubs of the kebab skewer sticking through. And you might find that you can't always, with the width of the panels, can't always get it to match up right. So what I usually do, you'll see me in a second, do it is I'll put one panel right at the end. This will make sure that we don't get any sort of irregular gaps. Now, on once in a blue moon, you will get, a rather large gap in between. So your best bet is to take one of your regular size and just chop it down the middle vertically, so you're cutting the plank in half lengthways, and then that should just slip in between nicely and cover anything up. Then we're just going to wedge it off the table, take off the blue tack, and then you have your fence. So next up, we've got to colour it. Now I'm not going to actually paint it for this. I'm going to use a rich mahogany wood stain, basically. I just find using these when you're using things like balsa wood or coffee stirrers, it's just really handy because it protects it. It puts a layer of polyurethane over the top, and it just strengthens the wood up, stops it from going mouldy or anything over the years, and it just generally does a great job. When you're applying it, make sure that you apply it in the way of the grain of the wood, and also make sure that you get into all the little nooks and crannies in between the planks. It's important as well not to go too heavy with it. Most of you probably would have stained wood before in the past. Just do it a couple of coats, make sure there's no massive globs of wood stain on your paintbrush, and you'll get a nice even coat. And don't forget to get the edges as well. Then repeat this step twice to get a nice dark look. And then there's the pile of what I've got to do next. So next up on the agenda, now that that's all nicely coloured, is we've got to put it on a base. So I've cut out some 3mm MDF here, and I've just beveled the edge with a crafting knife, just to make a transition to the board quite nicely. And all we're going to do is lay down a bead of hot glue down the middle, or where you want the fence to be, and then just simply push it into the hot glue. This will give you a nice firm bond, and make sure you got it nice and straight. Now I forgot to film this part because I got into the production line a bit too much, and but basically I've just given the base some textured paint. Because I'm using 3mm MDF in long shapes, it can tend to warp, so you're better off using the textured paint method rather than PVA sand paint flop. But now all you see me doing is adding an extra 3D element to the piece by putting some mid-green tufts on. Now we're going to take some Wilco's PVA, just some plain old builder's PVA, and some Jarvis Scenics Premier range mid-green flop, and just some mid-green plain old pump foliage. And we're going to lay some PVA down on the base and put some sponge flock on. And then just to finish it off, we're going to use the Jarvis Scenics mid-green and just give that a sprinkling over. Make sure you get a good coverage and make sure to get all the edges as well. And once both sides are done, that's pretty much our fence panel finished. So I'll stick up some pictures in a second, and I'll see you in the outro.
And there we go, some nice simple fences for you. Now I understand they are a little bit time consuming if you want to do a load of them, but for the amount that you actually spend on materials, you know, it's worth that extra, putting that extra little bit of time into it. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Like it if you like it, share if you think anyone else would like to see it, and don't forget to subscribe for the next episode. Have fun, guys.